Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard along with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, last time we had an amazing discussion. I still am kind of high from it, where we talked about, really toward the end especially, we talked about, a campaign rally type of situation and a heckler and what you would do, Bill Stierle, as a candidate if in that heckler situation. It got into this interesting discussion about different kinds of loyalty. And I think what we said just before we started this, you were saying American values and purchasing truth. It's a very interesting discussion that I think we can have and share with our listeners today.
Yeah, I think so, Tom. The main thing is that how do we embrace conflict? And one of the American values that we have is embracing conflict, not demonizing conflict or running from conflict. And what is currently happening in our environment is as soon as somebody makes a mistake, everybody's on it. Everybody's on the mistake and it's going to amplify the mistake. You did this, you got this, therefore you're wrong and bad for it. Wrong and bad for it? Why? Because you're on the other team. My team gets to do it, but your team does not. I get to claim that because my team is standing for the right and your team is standing for the wrong, therefore, what that means is that if I do the wrong, I'm still in the right.
Whoa.
I'm still in the wrong. I've done the wrong, but I'm still in the right because my team is right. Your team is not right. So if I were a Democrat and made a deal with the Russians, well, because you're not on my team, that behavior is wrong. But if you are on my team and I'm a Republican and I say the sentence, I think that me and Russia would get along very well together. I have ran a beauty pageant in Russia, and everything worked out great with the beauty pageant, and therefore I can have a relationship with Russia.
Okay.
Well, you're on my team, so you're right, and I can now do that because I'm right. And it doesn't matter what other agreements you're making with Russia, whether they're not in American values or not. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter their human rights because my team is good at making a relationship with that because I've already have an emotional buy-in to my team. It works great in sports. It just doesn't work very good in politics.
Sure. It really, there does seem to be a parallel with what we see in our political discourse today of our elected leaders in Congress, where it does seem very much like, arguing more for your sports team, trash talking the other guys, your team is the best and right, even if they're not. And it does feel that way, doesn't it? A lot of times.
Yeah, politics is not a sports team. It's not a sports team at all. There is one team, America, and there are these two groups that look to make that team win nationally and internationally. Not do things to make that team, to make one side of the political aisle win versus the other side at the expense of the team we're playing for. It's So what winds up happening is that, uh, and you're going to see this through the impeachment piece and everything like that. And I'm shaking my head even as I'm doing this. I'm going like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a relationship between it's not criminal, therefore it's okay, instead of it's not criminal, but it is clearly not ethical. Therefore, that is not American because it's not ethical. See, and America stands, its standards is on the ethical line. It's not on the criminal line.
Isn't that interesting? And we're already seeing a lot of those arguments take place where,
Right.
people are, at first it was, oh no, what the president did in the Ukraine phone call was not a quid pro quo. Well, and then it's come out that, well, it really probably was a quid pro quo. And you hear it being argued by Trump surrogates that, well, it may be a quid pro quo, but it's not illegal, or it doesn't rise to level of impeachment, or I still don't think it's an impeachable offense, or I wish he hadn't have said that. I don't agree with what he said, but it's not impeachable. I mean, you can see the sort of team arguments lining up, trying to support the team because for whatever reason they think if they, you know, if they get on board with holding the president accountable, it's going to hurt their team in the big picture, right?
Yeah, that's correct. See, the biggest challenge has to do with this relationship and why America has been successful up to this point is especially through the 1950s and into the 60s is it had a greater relationship between the balance of capitalism and the social safety net. Notice I didn't say socialism. Socialism is something different. The social safety net is that here are some things that we're agreeing as a nation that are a part of our social safety net. Number one in the social safety net is the military. Clear it clearly. We pay for that first.
Right.
50, whatever, 47 cents or 53 cents out of every dollar of tax money goes to pay for military. So what does that social safety net mean? Well, it means that we have enough military for people not to attack our country. And we scare the crap out of everybody because they can do it. Now, we'll even saber rattle our own saber rattle where it's like, what are you doing over there, right? Anyway, so social safety net. Now, the problem is that people mix up and they think capitalism, 100% capitalism is an American value. It just isn't. It really isn't. It's a good part of the American value because it allows certain people who want to participate in that level of competition to compete regarding ideas, products, services. That allows me to go shopping. I go to shop for the cheapest place to buy a t-shirt. And then I put a logo on it, and then I resell it in a retail marketplace, and I compete with other people making t-shirts. That
Sure.
is a capitalism mindset. None of that has to do with the social safety net until you tax that action. That taxing that action says, listen, capitalism, you're a great system, everything like that, but you need to sit on top of it is the foundation of the social safety net is underneath that. Because if you don't have enough social safety net, well, the people is going to be starving for food or starving for shelter and not have enough money to do this whole capitalism thing that we've made up. Now, here's where it goes dark and south and tragic really quickly is that, well, what's the easiest way for me to spend the least amount of marketing dollars and not have to do so much work because the customers are sitting there? Well, one of the easiest ways is that, well, if I privatize medicine, then I can get the medicine folks to capitalize. Well, to use capitalism in medicine. That's not a strong strategy because even though there's a lot of customers there, and everybody needs medicine, you sort of don't want to compete over a Band-Aid or or a drug, you sort of don't want to do that. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if you're not doing that, then it's, how are we going to, make money at this thing that everybody needs? And the whole reason why there's a movement from all of these different social things that was a net is how do I privatize those and drag it over to the capitalism line, is causing all kinds of problems over the last 40 years. And it's been a 40-year swing away from the social safety net mindset to how can I capitalize prisons? How can I become, the capitalists will take this customer called a criminal and house them for as long as possible with no sense or no interest in rehabilitating them, because it's not in their best interest to rehabilitate them. It's in the best interest to poke them with a stick as long as I can get away with.
Well, you could say that's true of the entire medical system in the United States as well, is that, it's not in their best interest to have, medical care around prevention as much as it is to have medical care around treating symptoms, right?
Yes, I'd rather treat symptoms for a long time than to cure somebody. See, we can see the tragic part of this if you go into a drugstore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the tragic part of it is if you go to, and I'll just use an example. I have like 150 of these, but an over-the-counter, the drug has a very low percentage of the active chemical in it. So, for example, if you buy something, let's say for athlete's foot,
Okay.
yeah, it'll have 1% or 2% or 3% of the active substance. But if you'd like a prescription of it, then you got to go to the doctor that's going to give you permission to get the 5%, 7%, or 10% of the thing that'll cure you. But do people know that game? No, they don't know the game. They don't know that what they're buying off the shelf is going to provide a temporary comfort, but just enough so you have to keep buying that thing at that low percentage thing. And it's over the shelf and you don't have to go to the doctor.
Right.
So it's easier to buy something off the shelf than it is to go to the doctor to get cured. Now, the doctors have their version of the shell game too. Well, I'm not sure if this shot or this shot is necessarily one. We give you both.
Oh boy. I have a feeling we could go down a deep rabbit hole on that one.
So the American value in this is, how do we heal and care for our people best? Notice I shifted it to a best practices narrative versus a habit or a minimalist narrative.
Okay. Right.
Minimalist is, yeah, that thing works, kinda. Yeah, it's 1% of the chemical. It works, kinda. So, but is it criminal? No, it's not criminal. It's legal to do that. Is it ethical? Oh man.
Area, right?
Oh man. Did that get shadowy real quick, Tom? Did you see how the criminal versus ethical? Well, this is permitted, but this is not permitted.
Well, I'm wondering, so now let's take this, exactly what you're saying, and pivot to our current political reality in the impeachment inquiry. You have the Republicans arguing, well, it's not criminal. It may be unethical, or it may be something else. They don't even really say unethical. It may not be criminal. They don't really tell you if it's not criminal, then what is it? But they're implying that if it isn't criminal, the president should not be impeached or should not be removed from office.
Correct.
And I don't know that that's, I don't know that it is necessary for it to be criminal for him to be impeached. I don't know. I mean, I guess what do they say? High crimes and misdemeanors, but that's not really defined.
That's correct, because they knew, the founders knew, that human beings were going to grow, change, and evolve over time. They knew they needed something more fluid. So they wrote it high crimes and misdemeanors, which is what is the high crime and misdemeanor that you are doing and executing? And this is why the Mueller report had so much problems to it. The reason why it had so much problems to it is that, well, it wasn't really criminal as a businessman. It wasn't really as a business narrative. It's got a little bit of unethics to it, but not really terrible. And it's clearly not criminal. So you can get away with unethical things in business. Tom, you and I have gotten away with all kinds of things that were marginally ethical. And no one's been looking over our shoulder in order to do it because it didn't rise to the 1% or 5% or 10% of, hey, this is a problem. So our American values lean on the ethics.
Okay.
But what happens is in the political round right now is collapsing to the criminal. And that's all the Republicans are really doing right now is saying, well, if it's not criminal, it's okay. It's like, and the Democrats are going like, no, this is an ethical standard. And as soon as they do that, they do their best job to say, well, what about you? When have you did something that was marginally unethical and we didn't call you on it? It's like, that's not it. This is the high unethical piece. And the founders knew this. And just for a little historical reference here, Louis the 16th was beheaded for what Trump did. That's what he was done because he literally looked at foreign military to come in and quash his French rebellion. And when they found out about it, they took not his, but the wife said it's off too. And regrettably, I'm not recommending that in America, but boy, and Mussolini had his problems with this particular detail and some neck problems, to go along with it. So I'm not advocating for this level of violence. I'm advocating for awareness about where the truth line is. And the truth line is that's where the truth line is. The truth line is that, yes, there are things criminal. And yes, there are things that are unethical that you and I tolerate as Americans in order to allow capitalism to exist. Because some of the things in marketing and sales are, here comes, unethical because some of them are not fully true.
Well, so this is interesting to me as we talk about this, that, we're saying, hey, action the president has taken being unethical is in alignment with what the founders had in mind to use the impeachment process for. And really, when you think about it, a really recent relevant example would be California Representative Katie Hill, who was accused of having an inappropriate relationship with a staffer on her what would you call it, her
a
staffer within her
organization,
congressional office, somebody supporting her as a representative. And the House immediately announced they were going to launch a House ethics investigation of her to determine, was there a violation of House ethics or not? If there were, she would certainly have been forced to resign or removed from office, however that process would take place. This is really a similar process. And if the founders didn't want us to be able to remove the president from office for ethical reasons, they probably would have made that explicitly clear.
That's right.
And this is the actual process for it.
High crimes, misdemeanors. The misdemeanors are particularly things because in comparison, the things that, and I'm surprised the Democrats are not hitting this hard, is what he has done is 10 times worse than what Nixon did. Easy 10 times worse. Easy. Because a break-in it hits this criminal piece pretty hard. I'm
Yeah.
not a crook, but there's an ethical piece to it too. Is like, you're the number one, person that split the fight for the law, and you're also an attorney. That was another problem, as well as we extended all kinds of trust to you. Now, the way the spin is going and the way the saturation of the media is going is, it's all about activating the molecules of emotion, of doubt and skepticism about not whether he did it or not. It's about whether or not it is allowed as a part of this office. It's weird to see the CEO of McDonald's resign because of an ethical and a company policy issue,
Right.
and hold the board holding him to the standard and I mean, is it really going to go that way, that businesses are going to rein it in tight with their ethics and the values, and they're going to eclipse the American values, what the American values stand for, and then they're going to become more ethical than the general population? And is that the way this is working? I mean, it's a little strange, but
Well, it
that's a little bit
seems
what's showing it.
yeah, that seems to be the way it's going. We see people in corporate America being held to a much higher standard than our system is really. I don't know if the right word is allowing us to, because I don't know if that's the right word, but
Yeah,
our government system is making it a lot harder to hold our elected officials, some of them anyway, and certainly the president, accountable for similar actions.
exactly. And I think that's the challenge that we're going to be facing moving forward, is the redrawing of the line and the reclarification of the line between criminal and ethical, and how ethical actually needs to gain more weight, because what has been done is it's been reduced. And because the ethical standards is like, yes, you can pay for and sleep with a porn star at a golf event. Yes, you can do XYZ during the campaign. You can elicit foreign help in the campaign. You can't do it as your president. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, while you're as president, you can list support for a foreign country to help. This is really problematic, because the lines moving away from ethics, and it's unclear how the Republicans are going to restore ethics as a value underneath the word Republican moving forward. It's really hard how they're going to do that, because right now they are either you're criminal and you're breaking a crime, but anything else other than that, we don't really care, because the law is not really there. Now, what winds up happening because that happens, the laws start getting written more conservatively. And that's what's actually happening now, because the new judges are going to start moving the criminal line up into the ethical line, and then more people get to go to jail because the criminal line has moved up. It's something all of us don't want. The criminal line to move up, I don't want that. That means that you and I could say something or do something that's less than ethical, and all of a sudden we get to go to jail for that thing that we said that was a little unethical,
Mm, that's
So
scary. That's
it
scary.
is scary. Yeah.
Well,
So
we do see, it seems that every day in the Trump administration, the goalpost is there's an attempt to move the goalpost, right? First, it's,
Correct.
oh, he didn't do the thing. Oh, well, he did the thing, but that's not bad. And, so they keep moving the goalpost. And we've talked about that a little bit in the past, but I also think that there's a new definition of loyalty here. I mean, is there loyalty to the American people, loyalty to party, or loyalty to, the president, or some might say, King Trump?
Yeah. So as
To
you put,
label him.
yeah, to label them. Yeah. So
Sorry.
King Trump is the one that has looking to get the need for respect or recognition at the expense of others. I am going to say things that are going to pull respect and recognition in my direction. And those are all from this language that you and I are talking as those are small r grabs for respect. In other words, you're grabbing for respect, but there's no reality behind the respect that you're grabbing, or a very limited reality behind which it's like, yes, you were in charge while this thing was taking place, but did you have any knowledge or say so before your special forces killed the terrorists that you were looking to kill, right?
Right.
Without due process. So when a person takes and tries to get respect for that, I did it. It was underneath it's trying to push up some kind of respect here, that because it was under my watch, it's here. Meanwhile, when Osama bin Laden was, when they were after him,
Sure.
Everybody was in the war room. They were all dialed in. They were all participatory. If I'm betting big money, I would say that Trump didn't know anything about this thing going on, because they knew that he would blabber it and say it and try to get credit too early before the thing that was taking place. That's the difference between large R, or capital R respect, versus small r respect. Capital L loyalty is when you're standing for American values. Small loyalty is when you're standing for individual or party loyalty. That's small L.
Well, an
Okay.
individual loyalty would seem to me to be a smaller L
Smaller.
than party loyalty, because here,
That's
I mean,
right.
this is about loyalty at the expense of just about everything except for the president's need for respect.
That's correct. That's right. That's correct. So you're working the right nuance, and that's the difference between something being criminal and something being ethical. Something is ethical, you're going to claim the capital of whatever it is, your capital fairness. So like if I'm paying 15% on every dollar, or 20 cents, 35 cents on every dollar for taxes, well, why isn't the next guy doing it? And why isn't the guy over, $10 million doing that? Well, why isn't the guy over, in the billion, or why is he not spending the same 35 cents I'm spending? Because that looks like big F fairness, not small F fairness. Small F fairness is I was able to maneuver the system and utilize tax codes in order to, and different ways that the tax is moved around in order to maintain and cultivate a greater amount of wealth. It's sort of like the game Monopoly. To make it easy, the fairness piece is really easy, is that when a person at a minimum wage job goes around the board, and then when they're ready to pass go, they might get their $200.
Right.
But if the other person has not just 2 dice that they're rolling, but 6 dice, they're going around the board and they're collecting 200, 200, 200. Okay, I got more money. I got more money. I got more money. They are able to, that is small, yeah, the person that's minimum wage is getting around and getting $200, but it's not fair in reference to, the other person having six dice, and they can do this with their investment money, and they can hold it here, and they have this tax break, and if they just positioned it here, and under Trump's tax law, it's if you buy a plane, you can depreciate it over 3 years or 2 years or something like that, the whole thing. And immediately it becomes a wonderful tax shelter to buy more planes. There's a whole bunch of planes that people are eventually going to start using like Ubers, you know.
Hmm.
Then you just rent a plane. What are you going through the airport for? Oh, you want to do something privately? Great. Here's the plane you can rent. Oh, and it's inexpensive. Wait a minute. Oh, you have enough money to buy the plane? Oh, it's a tax break for you. It's like, it's like it's not capital F fairness. It's small F fairness. Is that the rules, and I like fairness. I mean, I think fairness is an important thing, but it doesn't have to be the way fairness is set up, regarding, you know, um, some of the mindset that goes into, well, we're just going to take care of our own, and we're not going to take care of the rest of the country, because now all of a sudden we're not doing, honoring the flag, and the system that kind of brought us here. So, anyways, so a lot of big stuff here, Tom, that we can
There
talk about.
is a lot of big stuff. And it's very interesting that I don't know if we would be talking about all of these big things, these concepts, and people's needs and how to communicate and have a healthier dialogue, and eventually hopefully getting to where you and I want to go and have some restoration in America for
That's right.
safer conversations, safe dialogues between people, because I think it is our differences and we're and our being able to talk about it that makes us stronger than other countries.
Right.
um but I don't know that we'd be talking about these things as much if we didn't have the current state of chaos
Right.
going on.
Right. Yeah. Would you and I be motivated as much if Hillary Clinton was elected? No, she would have provided a stability and consistency and stuff. And it's not to say that the other side wouldn't have kept at her with the same noise and the same investigations. I mean, they did it with Barack Obama, and he had no baggage coming in. They just found stuff. They just found stuff to obstruct him on, and they found stories to obstruct him on,
Sure.
and they created a narrative of discontent in order for you know their side to get the majority and the other stuff, and then they could stonewall him all day.
It
So
was very frustrating to me too, and I remember somewhere in 2010 or 11, Mitch McConnell standing at the Capitol in front of all the cameras and the mics, proudly professing
yes,
that it was the Republicans' mission to deny Barack Obama a second term.
right.
Remember that?
Yeah, that's
He
right.
wore that like a badge of honor. It's like, is that why you were sent to Washington to represent your people, to deny a president a second term? I don't think that was really what people were thinking when they voted for you. They probably were thinking about their own needs and their own desires and desires for their state
Yeah,
and all that. I mean, certainly, yeah, there's always a little bit of politics. This is my team, that's yours, and I want you to support my team. But
not at the expense of others.
yeah, that was
It's
really disappointing.
yeah, the expense of others. It's disappointing and disheartening, because we are a country that was built mostly on collaboration and cooperation, especially at the beginning. How can we work together and create a mutual benefit? See, if we see a country in need like Ukraine, and parts of their country are being taken over unethically by another foreign country, Russia in this case, and just because they want that level of security, and the political will is not there to fight back. See, there, um, Barack Obama could have been tougher on Russia if the United States wasn't we are war weary. We were weary of being in war.
Sure.
And we're so weary that by the time it got to Syria, people in the United States are going like, God, there's too many getting killed. Why are we there? What are we holding together? And there was no energy to do anything around Syria politically, other than the things they did, because the money and the system had some depleted qualities to it, because we kind of, used up all our used stuff, and we, threw a bunch of equipment at it and some bombs and stuff like that. And it needed to be rebuilt because we just dumped it all on 2 other countries. And well, there's not enough in the stockpiles to kind of build it back up again.
Americans really had no appetite for another war at that point. Nope. Everybody, like you said, was weary, was tired of it, and it was tired. And interesting.
We're still tired. We're still tired of it too.
Yeah,
but clearly not at the expense of the Kurds, because the pushback has been so solid against that experience. So, anyways.
Well, and to what it does to in the region, and maybe hurts us in other ways in the future that we're going to regret someday in terms of ISIS and all that. So I mean, that we could go on another big rabbit hole on that one. But
I think what we do next time, Tom, is we do identity and truth.
Okay.
And TRUTH. And the reason why I kind of, this one just came to me at the end regarding identity and truth is because if our identity is not on the values of human rights anymore, if our identity is not on the value of the difference between ethical and criminal, then what is our identity? And let's look at the Democratic and Republican identities, and let's just pull those apart, because it's really time for us to do some truth telling about those 2 very, very different identities. And that can be really, really helpful.
I like the idea of doing that. Identities, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that can help illuminate, as we go through those identities, and how people in each of those teams, to use your term, are using language to communicate, either well or poorly, intentionally or not, how they are trying to purchase truth.
So that's our
from
title,
those identities.
Team identities and the purchasing of truth. Okay.
Love it. Okay. Sounds great. Well, I look forward to that one, Bill.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.